I'm Rickey Hampton, along with former NBA players Derrick, Gervin, and Paul Mokeski, and we're coming to you on multiple platforms tonight. We're coming to you on our regular Gerv and Big Mo Facebook page, and we also want to welcome our viewers watching us on the Gerv and Big Mo YouTube page.
We're worldwide, baby, worldwide.
Good evening. How you guys? Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Paul. Good evening, Rickey.
We're good, man.
That's funny, Paul. That is funny. I'm doing great, man. I was just talking to Paul. It was good to watch basketball over the weekend. And right off the bat, I thought the Lakers were just very impressive, fellas.
Hey, Rick, before we get started, I'd like to send our prayers and well wishes to the Florida State basketball player, Keontae Johnson, who passed out, collapsed on the floor this weekend. And man, it was really scary. And for the old people out there like us, I remember when it happened to Hank Gathers 30 years ago, and very eerily similar situations. Hank was going down full court and threw down a dunk and then walked a few steps and collapsed. And this young gentleman had just got an alley-oop dunk and was coming out of the timeout. And man, I know, he's in stable condition. Just put him in a induced coma, and just all our well wishes out to that family and the Florida State team. They were really shook when that happened.
Yeah, I second that, Paul. Our prayers go out to the young man and his family and the team, because they were you could see we talk about relationships all the time, and you could see it there. Those guys got very emotional, and these guys are friends, and it's bigger than basketball, and we talk about that all the time. And that was a perfect example there.
Yeah, Keontae Johnson is the young man's name. He's the SEC preseason player of the year, really outstanding player. And you're right, we got to keep it in our thoughts and prayers as we go through the next few days. I tell you, that really brings everything down to earth. But, there is basketball going on, and we're going to keep Keontae in prayer. But it's really good to see the NBA back and watching college ball. But like I said, the first weekend of preseason games, the Lakers were far away the most impressive team that I saw.
Wait, Rickey, let me start off before we even get to the Lakers. Steph is back. KD is back. Oh, man, I'm just saying, let me see. KD, DeMarcus Cousins is back. John Wall is back. That's exciting. So just having those guys back this year, you know how many fans Steph has out there. And then some people, had LeBron and KD as the two best players when healthy before KD went down. So that'll be exciting. Seeing if Boogie can come back and regain any of his form from his past days when he was with Sacramento and the Pelicans. That'll be interesting. And then John Wall's been looking pretty good. And then there's Kyrie. So it's an interesting year right from the beginning. Even before we get to the best teams, we got some heck of a players coming back.
Yeah, and DeMarcus really looks in shape. He looks mean and lean out there, man.
He's trimmed down, he looks like. Yeah.
Wonder what took him so long, man.
Right, Paul? Hey, Paul, right? He looks a lot thinner now.
Yeah, we look at our guy in Philadelphia that's never in shape. Come on, man. But it's so important. I know as a big guy, the more weight you carry, the more chance you can, hurt your knees, your ankle, your Achilles. So it's good to see him really slim down. He looks really good.
And already chiming in from our viewership over on Facebook, our good friend Nolan says over and under John Wall plays 40 games. So we're going to hope John.
How many games? 40?
He says John won't get 40 in. So we're hoping he plays. We want everybody to have a healthy season and see who can come out on top. But you guys talked about physical shape. Most people assume NBA players are in shape. You're in the NBA.
Yeah.
Well,
You got
they're
Paul.
shaping
Go
it.
ahead, Paul.
Yeah, they're shaping NBA shape now. I mean, obviously all those guys are in shape, but NBA shape is the next level. I mean, you look at what LeBron has done over the years at his age and how in shape he is. That takes a lot of work and months of effort. And I'm sorry, but some of the players in the NBA making a lot of money don't love the game enough or don't love their careers enough to get themselves in the best shape of their lives, and they got to realize that prevents injuries. And a lot of people out there don't realize that, and the people that see that are coaches and teammates. Those are the ones that see. And you can tell if a guy comes into camp in shape or works himself into shape. And this year, nobody can work themselves into shape. It happened too fast.
Yeah.
You know who I was proud of, Paul and Ricky? I was very proud of Jokic last year. He trimmed down tremendously. And what I'm proud of is that the year before, I had him as a top center in the league, and I believe he made the first team All-NBA over Embiid. And then to come back after that and to come in the shape that he came in, if you look at him and Jamal Murray, they were tremendous. They were awesome in the bubble. And I think a lot of that had to do with him changing his diet, with Jokic changing his diet. And he just looked trimmer, but he didn't look like he lost his quickness. He still was he was strong. Dwight Howard pushed him around a little bit, but I thought he more than held his own. So it was a good,
Yeah, I think like the big guys really, I wonder, like Porzingis, when he got hurt in New York when he was with the Knicks, he was very, very skinny. And then I think over the last couple of years, he really hit the weights hard and tried to put muscle on, and he still got injured. Sometimes you can put too much muscle on. It's a really touchy subject, and you really got to know your body to know what's going on.
Hey, Paul, how rare is it to have two guys on your team that people really can't figure out, man? Embiid, we know what he should be doing, like down on the block and all that. And then there's Ben, man. You don't know from night in. What you know about Ben is he's gonna fill up the stat sheet, but you don't know what kind of game he's gonna play, because we know he's not gonna shoot, but he misses a lot of layups. So I'm hoping he improves on that this year. And then Joel, of course, we don't know if he's gonna be shooting threes. Hopefully not as many. And if these guys play a little better and more consistent, they're going to be a team to reckon with come playoff time.
I'm very interested to see how Giannis comes out. I mean, we talked about him last year about needing to create a mid-range game into his arsenal and not always relying on the drive spin move stuff that everybody in the league already keys on. Milwaukee only has about a week to get him signed to a long term. My guess is I'm betting he signs a couple-year contract and extends and then goes from there. But, guys like that, it's weird that you say, he's the MVP of the league during the regular season and he needs to improve. Well, when Michael Jordan first came in the league, I played against him. And he was a very, very good player and an all-star, but he needed to improve on his outside shooting and his passing and stuff like that, which he did in the offseason as the years progressed. So people out there got to realize no matter how good these guys are, there's always something they can work on to get them to the next level, whatever that is.
Hey, do you think when you look at these guys, man, when you look at, say, Embiid or Giannis, do you think he wants to win there in Milwaukee, Paul, and start his own, lead his own team and be with a team for the rest of his career? Or do you see him just eventually wanting to win a championship and saying, man, I've had enough of this. Get me out of here?
Well, I think in today's NBA, the players, like the good players, great players, get to dictate a lot of what happens. Look at Harden. He's wanting to be traded, even though he's there in Houston. But I think Giannis wants to win for sure. And he wants to stay in Milwaukee for sure. But whether those two things mesh, I'm not so sure yet. And now NBA teams with players like that, they have to show their players that they're making the right moves to get them to the next level, because all those great players want to be in the finals. That's where all the notoriety comes. That's where you can get a championship ring. and they all want to get there. So NBA teams now have to prove to their stars that they're making the right moves. Milwaukee, with not being able to get Bogdanovich, that hurt them.
I was going to say, they never addressed their wing position, man. It's like they didn't. I like the Drew Holiday move. I think that's fantastic, but they still that one wing guy short, man. And then if Middleton is not on, we right back where we started.
And
so I'm hoping. I don't know what can they do right now. Are they stuck?
I think Giannis is actually waiting to see. I know he was excited about having a couple moves made, and they fell through. And it's not too late to make some moves, even before the season. So maybe they're on the phone now. But I know players like Giannis are watching the GMs and the owners of teams to see if they're going to get them to that next level. Because as you know, you can't win a championship by yourself. It just doesn't work that way anymore. LeBron came close when he was in Cleveland one year, but that's about it.
Don't tell Kyrie or anybody else or that J.R. Smith that. But if you look at it, though, these guys today, man, I'm hoping that if you look at it right now, I got to say this about what do you think about Brooklyn? I know you guys, and Rickey, I want you to chime in. What you watched a little bit of KD highlights. What did you guys think about how he looked last night and Kyrie going 7 for 9 from the field?
Go ahead, Paul.
I'll say real quick, the whole key to that to me is Kyrie, and it's not his play. He's a very good player. It's not his play. It's his attitude. And he rubs so many people wrong. I mean, he's already said that we don't really need a head coach. Everyone could be the head coach. I could be the head coach one day, and he could be the head coach one day, and everybody could be the head coach.
Paul. He retracted that today.
He walked that back.
Okay, well, once you say it, it's too late. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. And everybody knows exactly what he meant and how he feels. And Steve Nash is a great individual and a great guy and very understanding, but he's got to be going, So it'll play out this year. Let's see if Kyrie can do less of this, and more of this and play.
I think they're going to be good. I mean, because
KD's going. So you saw the interview today, right, Rickey?
No, I did.
You saw Kyrie's interview?
I read about it though. Yeah.
Well, he said it. I mean, today, we know what he's been talking about, but today he walked back. He walked it back, and he also said that it's been a pleasure. He said it's been a joy to be around. He said the synergy is unbelievable in the locker room, and it's been a joy to be around Nash. He said it's been great, and all that stuff he said about not having a coach. He said that was crazy. He said being around this guy is the best thing that happened. So he is trying to walk it back. So hopefully he'll just go out and play and not talk as much, like you said, Paul.
And Kyrie's history is in about 3 weeks, he will be walking that statement back too.
I hope.
Hey, you're watching Gerv and Big Mo. I'm Rickey Hampton, and we're coming to you live on YouTube, and we welcome our viewers at YouTube and Facebook. Give us your questions and comments, and we'll be glad to read them out. Frank Grazier says, you mentioned mid-range jumpers. It shocks me now when I see someone shoot one. Yeah. Do you all think mid-range jumpers still belong in the game? What about post-ups? That's a good question. Thanks, Frank.
Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I think I watched the Lakers-Clippers game for a little bit this weekend, and there was a lot of mid-range stuff going on, and I like to see it. They weren't just settling for the three all the time, especially on the Clippers end. Lakers shot a lot of threes, but the Clippers, Crawford and those guys were shooting mid-range stuff and really being dynamic with it. There's a place for everything in the game. Mid-range, three-pointers, low post game. That's why this game is so wonderful, is everybody in every position in every part of your game can be used, and it just has to be used in the right amount and at the right time.
Teams are waking up. If you look at the real scores, the CJ McCollums, the guys that like to shoot threes, but they also go off the dribble now. it opens up everything for the rest of your team. If you can go off the dribble, you're not being predictable. You're keeping the defense moving. And that's what I like about it now. If you look at Kawhi, we know he's a mid-range player. Clay started going off the dribble more, taking that 1 or 2 dribbles inside the line. It makes the game exciting. I don't want to just look at layups or passing it to the corner, Paul, passing up layups, throwing it out to the corner. I want to see a mixture. And I like these guys that are playing the mid-range game. I think some of these guys, if you're looking at LaMelo Ball and some of these guys come in, they're going to be mid-range players as well. So I think it's exciting, and it just continues to add to the game. Exciting.
One of the oldest mid-range guy who played great last year and looked good in the game that I saw the other day is Carmelo Anthony. And he's one of the best ever mid-range, and that's valuable to his Portland team. It helps them win.
Yeah. Hey, just to be clear, Nola says he did not say John Wall will score 40 points. He said he won't play 40 games.
Won't play 40
this
games.
this year. But we certainly hope that's not the case.
And Frank, I think be sure, and you're a good friend and a great member of our family here. Next week, it looks like we're going to have Ricky Pierce on, one of the king of the mid-range game. So make sure you get your questions ready for him too.
It's funny because Ricky reached out to me today, Paul. I hadn't talked to him in a few months, in a couple months. So I'm excited. We can talk about, like you said, the mid-range game, the sixth man of the year, all that kind of stuff. Hey, Paul, I want to move over to the Lakers and talk about these guys, man, because as you know, they played last night. Tell me what you think about Horton Tucker.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because, you know, he didn't get to play much last year and did well in the G League, but he has, I mean, obviously he can score with anybody and at the highest level. And it was interesting that the coach of the Lakers, you know, mentioned, okay, let's let it go and see what can happen and see if you can get in this rotation. And boy, he grabbed his opportunity really at the right time. And hopefully he can continue that because the Lakers, in my opinion, are the most talented and the deepest team in the NBA. And if he can do what he's doing, wow, there's going to be something to watch.
How do you fit all these guys in? Caruso, I think he's not even playing yet. So they still got to figure out this rotation. But I say the young man is giving himself the thing I'm happy about is no matter what happens now, Paul, whether it be with the Lakers eventually or someone else, he's set himself up for a nice payday. And when I looked at last night, not only did he score, he also played on the defensive end. He had 4 steals. And he stole the ball from Kawhi. He shot a jumper in Paul George's face. He was versatile. It seemed like he can get anywhere he wanted pretty much on the floor. And those are things I was looking at yesterday. That's what I said. I know LeBron said he was special. And when I looked at the kid last night, I felt the same way. And then, of course, he had a David Thompson dunk. And I thought that was exciting. So I'm wishing him well. And if the Lakers keep looking like they're looking, man, they're going to be hard to deal with when LeBron and AD return.
But nobody's really scouted him yet, too, right? And it's just preseason. He's just rolling the ball out there.
You can tell if a guy can play. I can tell if a guy can play. And he could just get to his spots. I mean, remember now, Ricky Wade, he played in the finals.
Yeah,
so they're aware of him.
He gave some good minutes. I remember that.
Yeah, so he got some minutes. So they should be aware of this guy by now. They just didn't know. Maybe they didn't know his talent level was as high as it is. But the guy, if you adjust a star, I see star potential. And playing with LeBron can only make him better. So I see a bright future for this guy.
You know what really stood out for me watching the game is Marc Gasol can still play. He can ball. Great passer, great basketball IQ, great teammate. He has been Defensive Player of the Year before. He's not young anymore, but he still affects the paint. And then Harrell played well also when he came off the bench. So they're bigs. I mean, you're looking at LeBron, AD, Gasol, Harrell, Morris, Kuzma. Wow.
Hey, Paul, I looked at Ibaka and the Clippers, man. They look like, to me, something's missing, man. I know it was preseason, But they didn't look good to me at all, man. I know Paul George and Kawhi aren't playing a boatload of minutes right now, but I looked at their team with Zubac and these guys they had in the lineup, man. I wasn't very impressed. Did you get a chance to check them out at all?
Yeah, it looked like Ibaka looked sluggish to me. It looked like, I don't know if he was a little out of shape or he just doesn't fit in right now. But that's one thing that stood out with me, D. Like you said, he looked sluggish, and he didn't look like he had the bounce that he had in Toronto, and that could be a little concerning because even though it is preseason, the preseason is so short this year.
Right.
That you better get. I mean, if you struggle to get out of the of the blocks fast this year, you're gonna have a hard time making it up.
Especially with the Lakers looking the way they're looking, and then you have Denver. Denver's tough. We still, and some of these other teams are improved. So I think you have to get out to a good start as well.
I like Portland.
You do?
See, this is where you guys, you guys definitely have the expert eye, being former NBA players, because I always told that exhibition and regular season is totally different animals. But there's a jump when the bell really rings for real.
Yeah, but you have to.
Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
You use preseason depending on what type of team you are. Or if you're a young team, you use preseason to get your young guys experience. If you're a veteran team, you use the preseason to get your veterans some run, but see what else you have. See if someone else can step up and be a real role player for you. So it depends on what team. But this year, the preseason training camp, it's all shortened. So you don't have the leisure of, we'll wait till next week and see if we can, get our secondary break. You don't have that time to do that. I'm used in the D League, we got 7 days to get everything in. NBA teams are not used to that. So they're going to have to get used to that.
Now, I got to talk about the negative side. I hate to, but do you think, Paul, by the season resuming so quickly, that I'm hoping these guys, someone's going to get hurt because of not being in the proper condition? Maybe they feel they haven't had enough time to get in peak condition.
I think the teams that were at the end, like the Lakers and Miami, they had 71 days off, right? So that's 2.5 months. The regular time is about 5 months. The other teams that got out of the bubble or didn't get to the bubble, they've had 4 or 5 months off already. So that's regular time. So I think that concern would be for the teams that made late runs in the playoffs in the bubble last year, and for the older guys, and I think teams should and need to really watch those guys and make sure, that they don't get extended early in the season. Because like, D, that could open up to an injury that could pretty much end your run in the season.
That Final Four, basically you're saying if teams that was the Final Four.
Yeah.
Kayvon has a great point. He says, throw them into the deep end. Less preseason, the better.
What was that?
He was saying the less preseason, the better.
For who?
For the fans.
Yeah, exactly. Well, okay. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't pay for a preseason ticket because you're not going to see the stars play a lot. But for teams, NBA teams, they use it as the ways I just explained how they use it. Here's another thing that a lot of people don't think about. The teams that didn't make it in the bubble, they've been off for almost a year.
Yeah.
Almost a year. They haven't played a game. So it's going to affect them a lot too.
People don't realize how important training camp is. And that's everything. That's everything. You want that time. You want to get yourself in condition. You got to learn how to blend with the other players. You got to get used to the coaches. It's a process. The general manager, all that factors in before you play one game. And then you're building these relationships with these players on the court and off the court. So it takes time. And I love the camps. I don't like the little short ones, and it makes you susceptible to injury.
So French guys really have it tough this year because you don't have a lot of time to show what you can do.
And
we may not have a G League.
And draft picks. Like draft picks, had a tough time this year because of how the draft was postponed. There was no summer league. There were no in-person workouts. So they had to struggle also. And this preseason is not what it used to be, D. Remember, we had preseason. We had 2-a-day real practices.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
now, they don't even do 2-a-days. They have a shooting practice and then a regular practice. So it's a different animal now.
And they're on those nice planes, Paul. We can't forget that.
I
But
was
you had, hey, you had your training camp was good and then you think about the guys that have been injured. They need to start feeling comfortable. So this helps them. John Wall and all these guys, they needed this break. DeMarcus Cousins talked about how happy he was to have this break and have a chance to recover from his injuries, his surgery. So everyone uses this for a different reason. For the young guys, it does put them behind the 8 ball a little bit this year because you so expect a lot of these young guys, and Paul, you can tell me if you agree, a lot of these young guys are going to be turning the ball over early because some of them are going to have to learn on the fly. And they don't have, I looked at Cole, Anthony, all these guys are going to be playing early. I believe Tyrese Maxey, you can pretty much name the guys. The Obi Toppins, they're going to have to learn on the fly. So don't expect too many of these guys to get out the gate right away. Anthony Edwards, all these guys. It's going to be a learning process. Right now, I don't see any superstars. We don't know what will happen down in the future. But right now, expect these guys, it's a learning curve. So don't expect superstardom right off the bat.
No matter how good they are, they've never faced this. They've never played big, strong, fast, quick NBA players. They haven't done that. And it's a different game. And they're you're right, D. They're going to struggle to start with.
And Paul, that's pretty much what Pistons coach Dwayne Casey said the other night after their number 7 or 8 draft pick, Killian Hayes, had 7 turnovers the first game. And I actually thought it was good coaching because he said, well, he's going to get better. He didn't beat him up or anything. He said, man, this is a whole different animal that he saw tonight, and he actually played better the next game.
There's a lot of things you can get away with when you play in college that you can't get away with in the NBA. And all those stars in college, everyone in the NBA was a star in college. So there's no rest time. So yeah, it's a wake-up call for them.
The speed picks up, everything changes. You're the way you defend, the way you dribble the ball. Protection of the ball is different. In college, you're dealing with some of these guys, they don't have the arm length of a Kawhi Leonard or a Paul George. So it's an adjustment. And then you're going to play fast too, trying to do so well, trying to impress the coach, trying to impress your teammates, and you're going to play out of control sometimes. It's a learning curve, and that's the fun thing about being a rookie. These guys are going to take their lumps, but as the season goes on, you'll see progression. And I can say a positive about Killian Hayes, Ricky. You being in Detroit, he's not going to average 7 turnovers. So he can only go up, and it's a good learning experience for him.
We used to call it the deer in the headlights look. When the rookies came to training camp after a few years, when you play in the NBA and you go to training camp and you see the rookies come in, first few practices, they have the deer in the headlights, man. Whoa, these are real men. Yeah, they are.
Paul, you looking at LeBron James in person, it's not like when you were coming to the game, hanging out on the sidelines, right? Now you're actually looking at him on the other end of the court, Kevin Durant. And that's intimidating to a lot of people.
Yeah, he's 6'9", 280. Yeah.
Do you remember the moment when you guys realized, oh, I can do this, I can play at this level? Was it a play or just a conversation?
I played less than Paul in the NBA, but I felt the same way in Europe, Ricky. When I was about 23, 24 years old, I felt like I was unstoppable offensively. But then there's the other side of the floor. When I was younger, I didn't realize how important it was going to be in the NBA, that you had to be able to defend. I actually had a gentleman tell me yesterday, and he argued me down. He said that in the NBA, they don't defend. And I told him I disagree with that. I said it might look like that to you, but from being on that floor and knowing some of these guys that are playing today, you have to defend today. You have to play on both ends, or you're not going to be in the league very long. They looking for overall play now, more so than ever.
It looks that way because of how good NBA offensive players are. That's why. To answer your question, it was probably my second year when I was traded to Detroit from Houston. Houston, I had no idea. I watched Moses Malone play in that. I don't know if I could fit in here, but when I was traded to Detroit, I was thrown in as a starter for a lot of games. And, when you're starting against Kareem or Robert Parrish or those type of guys, and you're holding your own a little bit now, then I thought, okay, I can play in this league. That was my turning point.
Yeah, that is good stuff for sure. Let's go back here. Kayvon has another comment. They really do go easy on these pampered prima donna NBA players nowadays. Mo and Gerv had it much tougher when they played. Seems like you guys had no days off. But that was kind of unfair the way the schedule was back in the day, especially with the travel situation.
We
sucked it up.
Yeah, we had 3-week road trips. I mean, 3-week road trips flying commercial. We played 3 games in 3 nights. With there was no load management back then. I mean,
we had to pack. We had to actually pack.
I mean, we had the rookies, get the bags, and we went through the airport, and they had to put them on the bus and all that. I mean, I've been there. You pull up to the plane, they park your car, they put your bags on, you get on the private jet, you eat what you want, you get off, they load your bags, you go to the Four Seasons, they bring the bags up. You don't even carry your shoes anymore.
Right. Hey, Paul, in the wintertime, you go to Washington, Chicago, Detroit, New York, out of a 12-day road trip in the wintertime. That's brutal. And then we're sitting in the airport. We weren't, like they said, pampered today. We're sitting in the airport after you get off the bus, and it's 10 degrees or 5 degrees. And people forget, it's not just what you see on TV. There's a lot that goes on into the game behind the scenes. And that's what I like to share sometimes. I wish we could do a type show where we could get someone to really go behind the scenes, Paul, on all the little things so the fans get even a different understanding of the game.
And here's one other little thing. The scouting, you guys playing back to back to back. Was there any kind of scouting then? And how much more sophisticated is the scouting today than from the times when you guys played?
There was only one assistant coach when I first came in the league. Now there's 10. That's not even counting scouts. So there was less scouting. You learned by word of mouth. So the young guys would learn from the older guys on the team how to play certain players and things like that. Now there's 10 coaches, 3 scouts, video. We didn't watch video in the locker room. It wasn't available till probably halfway through my career. So, you had to just kind of feel your way. Now everything is, laid out there for you.
So as a post player, what did you tell a young guy who had to guard Moses? Hold on.
Yeah. Don't go for the okie doke over the head move.
hey, Paul, the only shoot around we had was the day of the game when that was 30 minutes, and you go through a little walkthrough of what the team is going to do. I mean, how can you go through a walkthrough of what you're going to do against Dominique Wilkins or Larry Bird that night in 10 or 15 minutes? So it was really just to get a sweat. But today, as you say, sometimes they might not even really go. They just go in and get some shots up, and then they go back to the hotel. We had real practices during the season. And Paul said that we had a 3-hour practice. You can have a 3-hour practice, Paul, and a 2-hour, 2.5-hour practice. That was crazy. But at the end of the day, it paid off because you were in the NBA.
Yeah, and shoot-arounds were for finding the way, you're going to play the Hawks or the Celtics. You're going to find, we know their sets, but how are we going to guard their sets? And Don Nelson was great at this. When we did a shoot-around, we would go through their sets, and he would ask Sidney Moncrief, how do you want to play Dominique off this pick? How do you want to do this? Pressy, how are you going to do this? Jack Sikma, how do you want to play Robert Parrish in the post? And then we'll adapt to that. And then once the playoffs were in the 80s, that's when you got to see some footage and really hone in on a team. And that was now almost every game is like that.
Paul, how did you guard Chief, man, with him running the floor as well as he did? Was he more of a guy that was a threat to you because he ran the floor so well, or were you more worried about in the half court game, or a combination of both?
Well, he ran the floor, even though he limped most of the time. But the thing is, he would run rim to rim, and guys like Bird and DJ and those guys would hit him with that pass. So, against some other center, you might be able to jog back, but against Parrish, you had to sprint back and get yourself turned around, or Bird or someone would buzz a pass by your ear and Parrish would be laying up. And also Parrish had that high release. So you didn't bother to try and block it. You just tried to body him out, get him out of his range, and then hope he missed it.
and he ran with a limp?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he had bad feet. Really bad feet.
He ran with a limp for the last 2-3 years of his career, maybe more. Yeah, he limped.
He had broken feet. He and McHale feet were terrible. Yeah. They just sucked it up during the game and paid for it afterwards.
Wow.
And don't leave out Bill Walton, man. It's amazing. 3 guys on the same team all had basically foot problems like that. Yeah, but don't forget Bill.
One of the best teams ever.
Tell us about playing against Walton, Paul.
Well, like Dee said, I mean, I went to high school in California, so I grew up watching him at UCLA. And even at UCLA, when they would play, they won most of their, if not all their games, right? And a lot of the games, if they're playing Pepperdine or USC, they were blowouts. So even John Wooden would take Bill Walton out of the game with 8 minutes left, 6 minutes left, and Bill would leave the floor. They would tape up his ice around his knees, and he would walk off the floor with 5 minutes left in the game, so he could get his ice for his knees. Even back then, I played against him a couple years when he was healthy, and one of the best passing centers, basketball IQ, had that shot like this that he would bank it off the glass. Great shot blocker, great timing, rebound. He was one of the first guys that when he rebounded, he would be turning already in air and have the outlet pass, and guys would be flying. But at the end of his career, he was, with his feet and his knees, he was still an asset, but he wasn't what he was early in his career.
Yeah. Mary O'Donnell checks in. She says, "Hello, gentlemen. Hello, Coach Mo from Moncton. Hope I got that right. Moncton. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Thank you so much for checking in, Mary. And you're watching Gerv and Big Mo. Let me check over here on our YouTube channel. Okay. Right, we are now streaming on 2 platforms as we are.
Hey, Ricky, I want to get on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to get on James Harden a little bit. In this situation in Houston doesn't seem to be changing. They had a conversation with Stephen Silas, and from what I can see out of that, they're trying to figure out. I know they want a lot for Harden, but there's got to be some talking going on behind the scenes, and he's got to be on the move soon.
The difference is he's got 2 years left. So that's not just 1 year, 2 years, but I mean, what a tough situation. I mean, a guy wants to leave, but you can't just give him away, or you're going to be paying for the next 10 years if you don't get something of value, and not Oklahoma City 20 draft picks, not that,
Well, he said his feelings haven't changed, Paul, with the addition of John Wall.
How do you think John Wall feels?
I know, that's what I'm saying. So what do you do, man? You don't want to put Stephen Silas is kind of, you don't want to handcuff your coach on the first year, man. Don't you want to give him the best opportunity to succeed? And if you look at it, how can you succeed with a guy that's already causing friction before you even start a regular season game?
But if you're the GM and you give Harden away for nothing, Now, 2 years from now, they're going to want your head on a platter because you gave James Harden away for nothing. That's the catch-22.
Well, what team do you think is still a viable option? Because it doesn't look like it's going to be Philadelphia. They said they're not giving up Embiid or Simmons.
Miami is supposed to have some interest in him.
Who's that, Ricky?
Miami.
What would
I
they
know,
have to
but what Tyler Hero, and you got to give up Bam Adebayo. How many people, what are they willing to give up? That's the key to not affect the chemistry. You just went to the championship, so how much do you want to affect the chemistry? So that's going to be something they have to deal with that Pat Riley and Spoelstra have to figure out.
Here's a team that popped up that I don't know. You tell me. I heard now Harden would be willing to go to the Milwaukee Bucks.
I told you, Paul can't see it. When the man didn't pick him, when Giannis didn't pick him, it depends on has Harden matured. But man, the guy didn't even pick you in the All-Star game, and he publicly stated that he didn't pick you because he wanted to play with guys that would pass the ball. If he can overlook that, then it might be an opportunity. But it doesn't sound like Giannis wants to play with him.
So because Giannis brings the ball down all the time. So Harden's not going to let it. So Giannis, you go run to the corner. There you go.
I don't know if there's ever been a player of his caliber, in my estimation, that potential MVP guy, lead the league in scoring, that really doesn't have championship value. I mean, I just don't see this guy leading somebody to a championship.
It's mind-boggling, right?
But you got to give up all this stuff just to get him, and I don't think his style is conducive, Derrick, to championship basketball.
A lot of players don't really like James. A lot of players know what goes on behind closed doors and all that, and they know James likes to hang out. And some players already resent that. He makes a lot of money. He spends a lot of money out at the nightclubs or whatever they may be. And a lot of guys resent that. And then when you look at James come in the regular season, his style of play, I don't think is conducive to winning either. It's not good. I wouldn't want to play with him.
When was his best chance when Chris Paul was there?
The problem wasn't. I don't think it was the problem was Chris Paul being there. I just think James is so stuck in his ways and what D'Antoni has allowed him to do and what Daryl Morey allowed him to do. I don't think we've ever had a player in the history of the NBA that I could think of that went 20 or 30 dribbles in one possession. Seriously, why before they passed the ball? So that's something that he's going to have to get out of if he really wants to contend for a title.
And if he didn't get out of it when Chris Paul was there, he won't get out of it. Chris Paul's a great point guard, I mean, how mind-boggling is that? One of the best offensive players ever to play the game, MVP, the leading scorer, and nobody really wants him.
Nobody wants to play with you. That's a bad feeling.
His style of play and his personality aren't indicative of a championship. You said it, Ricky. So if you're a GM, if you're a GM out there,
Paul, you rather have Lance Stevenson or JR or somebody. That's a bad sign.
Yeah, and because you're not paying them $47 million a year. I mean, it's Ricky. You're right, man. I'm going back in my head.
I can't think of anybody.
I can't think of it. Mark Aguirre, maybe someone like that. I don't know. I mean, that's
when by the time Mark came here, he was in the latter stages of his career. So, and we had Isaiah here in Detroit, so he was going to.
You got Ricky. You guys know what's so baffling about Harden to me is that he has the ability. If you look at his assists over the last 4 or 5 years, the guy averages 6, 7, or 7 assists a game. But it's the way that he gets them. And I think if he played in a team with actually a team-oriented ball, with a team that has a chance to contend, and he played instead of scoring 35, he sacrificed and went to 25. and focus a little more on the defensive end and keeping everyone else in the game, I think he would have a chance to do something special. But that goes back to how much do you really want to win? Do you want to grow your brand, or do you really want to win?
Hey guys, what rookie are you more interested? You're most interested in watching play this year?
LaMelo Ball.
I want to see how good or how potentially good Wiseman can be. You know,
I got to see LaMelo, Paul.
LaMelo passed that ball, man. I saw some highlights. But back to the other question, like Harden. So theoretically, if Harden won't change, obviously, but if he did, the Warriors would be a great place for him. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, but you know, sorry, Rick.
No, I was just thinking, man, basketball is really the only sport I know where you can be super talented, but you can go somewhere and it don't fit. If you got a super talented tight end, he's going to be fine in whatever offense you run. He may not get as many balls as he did, but when he gets them, but basketball doesn't like that. If you got a great right fielder that plays his own way, if he's a great right fielder, he can still, but basketball, it can be just the opposite.
Your game has to blend in with the other guys, Ricky. It's that simple. Your game has to blend in with the other guys. No matter what your skill set is, you have to be able to be coachable and to know how to play within a system. And that's why a lot of players didn't make the NBA. Paul tell you, a lot of guys didn't make it because they couldn't play in between the lines in the actual organized basketball. They were talents in the summer league and all that, but when it came to playing in front of scouts and all that, they were just different players.
Yeah, I mean, and basketball is a sport where everybody usually touches the ball and everybody plays both ends, offense and defense. Not baseball, not football, hockey maybe, but that's part of it too. So everybody relies on everybody the whole time during the game. If one person messes up the pick and roll coverage, you're screwed. If one person messes up the play, it doesn't work, you know? So that's where chemistry comes in too.
Paul, you know, you can't give up rhythm shots in the NBA. These guys shoot at a very high percentage. I saw recently Seth Curry shoots 51% with the guy 6 feet or closer or 6 feet or further. And they're contesting, closing out 51% from three. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, the analytics go ahead, Paul.
Well, I shared those numbers before that I knew when I was with the Dallas Mavericks, that NBA players shoot over 50% from non-contested shots and 35% from contested shots. And that's why on defense, it's important to contest every shot, you know, because it means something.
Yeah, I remember that. I shared that with my son, because if they're doing that in the NBA, what are they doing it on the college level?
Because you see guys that just stand there and get shot in their face because they don't even put a hand up. It's like mind-boggling.
Right. You're watching Gerv and Big Mo. I'm Rickey Hampton, along with former NBA players Derrick, Gervin, and Paul Mokeski. Guys, we're headed down the home stretch here this evening. You mentioned Curry earlier, and he's back, and the Warriors. What are your thoughts about them, Derrick? Looks like we may have lost Derrick, Paul.
That's my show, man.
Derrick?
I'm on my radio.
He's doing somebody else. Paul, what are your thoughts about?
Hold on, Ricky. I'll be right there.
No problem. What are your thoughts about the Golden State Warriors? I'm interested in seeing what Wiseman can do too, because I may have said this earlier. If he runs like Chief used to do, he's gonna get some good looks with the guys he's playing with, right?
Yeah, I mean, Wiseman, you know, if he can step up and you know, be an effective post player, that's going to put them into the playoff hunt and maybe a little better. I mean, obviously Clay getting hurt, you know, was a downer for everybody and really brings them down. You know, but they still have a pretty solid starting five with Wiseman, Wiggins. Wiggins needs to step up and be the first pick in the draft like he's supposed to be. And they have Green, and they picked up Oubre too, who can fill some of Clay's shoes. But it's going to be a struggle because the West is so strong. It's going to be tough.
Derrick, Paul and I were talking about the Warriors, and of course, losing Clay is a huge hit, but they're still going to be a pretty good team. And if Wiseman blows up, there's no telling what they can do.
I still think they have a good team. Kelly Oubre was a big addition. And then you bring in Wiseman. From all accounts, I hear that Nico Mannion has been looking pretty good out there. And of course, they brought in Bradley Wanamaker from Boston, so he has some playoff experience. I'm a big fan of Golden State. I'm happy to see Steph back. I see they won last night, and they played pretty good. So I'm excited. I look at them as what I think they're a contender, but I don't think they're a champion where they're a threat to knock off the Lakers, but they're a team that is a threat to be a top 4, top 5 seed. Golden
State will go as the 2 W's. That's what's going to make their season. Wiggins and Wiseman, the 2 W's.
Wiggins and Wiseman. And
guys, hey, Rick, so Paul, you think he's going to get a big role that Wiseman's going to be playing 30 minutes, basically?
I think they need him to. If they're going to be, a better playoff position, he needs to be. And he needs to be productive, which is a huge question mark because he didn't have much of a college career either. So, it depends on how well he listens and how well he executes what they tell him to do.
It's like what Paul says. It's not that you don't know your role. You got to want to do your role, right?
You have to accept your role. Accept your role. Yeah.
How many teams do you guys, if we look at the Eastern Conference, the way things are right now, and we're a few days away, a week away from the season, who would you be your favorite right now, Paul, coming out? Would it be Milwaukee?
That's kind of a jumble. So you have Milwaukee, Miami, New Jersey, Boston, and Philly, those 5, right? I don't think Toronto's going to be in the mix anymore.
You didn't mention Detroit.
Oh, yeah. Detroit's like their football team. No chance.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate that.
Sorry, man.
Was Miami as good as they played in the bubble last year?
Well,
because they came in a 5th seed when they came in.
Let me ask you this: if Goran and Bam were healthy for the whole final series, would they have pushed that farther?
Yeah, I think that would have been interesting. I don't think they would have won, but we'll never know. But I would have made it a lot more competitive. This year, Ricky, we haven't heard a lot about Miami. If you look at it, they've been focused on Brooklyn. They've been focused on the Atlanta Hawks. I see they were talking about them a lot. So it's been a different focus. But I'm going to have Miami in there as long as Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley are working together. And coming off the year they had last year, I would put them in the mix. The question is, do they go after James Harden or not? Right now would be my only question with Miami. But as long as they have Jimmy Butler and the toughness he's instilled in those players, I would say with the current roster, I would still have them as a threat to come out of the East.
Also, they picked up one of the players that the Lakers were really missing, Avery Bradley, right? So they picked up Avery, who's a very good player. And it depends on how Robinson and Hero step up from what they had last year. But, I like the way
guys, they were, I believe, they 5th seed when they went into the bubble. And I'm just wondering, are they a team that got hot, or did they just grow into
Well, they lost Derrick Jones. They lost the high jumping Derrick Jones, but he wasn't playing that much in the playoff time. So that'll be something they can get over. But you can never count Miami out as long as they have Spoelstra coaching at the level he's coaching, and Pat Riley's always in there putting their brains together. So yeah, they're always a threat to come out of the East, I would believe.
I think they were better than people thought, and I think they got on a roll at the right time. But I think they can really compete.
Kayvon says it's exciting to know you're going to be hosting Ricky Pierce on next week's show. He was one of the Bucs' star players. No expensive coffee jokes intended there. Alongside the ranks of Sidney Moncrief, Jack Signer, and our very own Big Mo.
Glad you through, because he asked me, what Big Mo doing? That's what he asked. So he asked me that this morning, what Big Mo's doing.
Who said that? Deuces? Ricky? Yeah. Yeah, Ricky's a good man, great player. He was very similar to Vinnie Johnson there in Detroit, just scoring machines off the bench.
Paul, wasn't he one of the first 6 men of the year?
I think so. He was our scoring machine that you knew when he was the point a minute guy. You know, you want to have a point a minute guy. Plays 20 minutes, he gets you 20 points. Plays 30, get you 30. And he was that way.
I tell you, those Milwaukee teams, they just came along at the wrong time because you guys had very good championship caliber teams, man.
In the 80s, the Milwaukee Bucks were the most winning team in the NBA East.
Wow.
We more than Boston, more than Philly.
Say it again, Derrick. Say it again, you were breaking up.
Paul, did you play with Terry Cummings?
Sure.
Yes. Yeah, I was there.
What do you think about Terry what do you think about him at that time? Because I think he's very underrated. What do you think about that?
I played with two of the most underrated small forwards ever, Terry Cummings, Marcus Johnson.
Marcus Johnson.
And the reason why was because Dominique Wilkins, Larry Bird, all those guys were there at the same time. But Marcus Johnson and Terry Cummings, two of the most talented players I ever played or saw play. Yeah.
I was a big fan of Marcus, very big fan of his number 8 back in the day, man. I thought he was a superstar. If you really look at it, he was a superstar at that time. I thought I had him at one time, Paul, as the best small forward in the league.
Yeah. So you got in the East, you had Larry Bird, Dominique Wilkins, Dr. J. There's your small forwards.
Yeah. And Terry plugged in right after Marcus. And they really kind of gave the same kind of production, didn't they? Good rebounding scores.
We had Marcus Johnson, Harvey Catchings, Junior Bridgman, Brian Winters were all traded a day before we started training camp. We were all getting our physicals for training camp, and we got Ricky Pierce, Craig Hodges, and Terry Cummings.
Paul, I've been trying to get Harvey Catchings on the show, man. I wanted to interview him and Tamika, so I'm still trying.
Hey, we'll get him on for sure.
Well, guys, I don't know where the time went, but we got another one in the books. I want to thank everybody for checking in. We got one more comment from Kayvon. Little known fact shared there about Paul Mokeski. The Milwaukee Bucks were the winningest team in the NBA Eastern Conference during the glorious 80s decade. Those were some really, really good teams. But was there anything that you guys could have done to get past Boston and Philly at the?
The problem was
both those teams were at the height of their powers.
We get past Boston and we lose to Philly. We get past Philly and we lose to Boston. The team that we had, I think it was 85, where we took the Boston Celtics to Game 7 of the East Coast Finals. And we were up by about 10 points with about 5 minutes left, and we lost that game in the Garden. If we would have won that game, we would have played the Lakers in the finals, and we had beat them both times we played them. We feel we would have beat them, but we just never got there. And it's interesting. That window closes fast. NBA teams, you get on that run and you get a chance, and then it closes really fast. Look at the Rockets. It closed on them.
I was going to mention that, Paul, the Rockets and the Bulls.
Yeah, it closed on them.
let me see, y'all are up 10 with 5 minutes to go. I bet you Mr. Bird has something to do with those final 5 minutes.
Yeah, he hit a 3 and almost landed on me on the bench, I remember.
Hey, Rick. What did he say, Derrick? Over both of you.
It's on both of you.
This is on the both of you. And that's a very true story. I'm not making not even, hey, the guy was phenomenal. And the sad part is I didn't even feel bad, even though I was being taunted. I kind of took it as a badge of courage. I just got scored on by the great Larry Bird.
That's when Kareem would hit a hook shot over me, my sky hook. I'm like, okay.
Hey, Ricky, I wanted to tell people about our YouTube, man, because I'm so excited. We've only done, what, 1 or 2 shows on there, and I'm very excited. Tell people about it, Ricky, if you got a minute, a little bit about our YouTube.
Go to Gerv and Big Mo on YouTube and subscribe, and you'll get all our shows. Even if you're not around to watch it, it's going to pop up for you when you go onto the site. It's Gerv, capital D-G-E-R-B, and Big Mo, B-I-G-M-O, YouTube. Check us out and subscribe.
Push the subscribe button. Push it.
Yes, sir.
Hey, all thanks for tuning in tonight. Thank you guys as usual, Ricky and Paul, man. I love you guys, man. I wouldn't want to be with anybody else on the show. I appreciate you guys.
Always a pleasure, brother. See you next Monday. Take care, gentlemen. Good night.